The following program is intended for mature audiences.
Eller for the draw. And as the puck drops, the words that DC fans have been waiting to hear since 1974, the Washington Capitals are the 2018 Stanley Cup champions. What do you say we have a rock and roll party?
You're listening to Basically a Sports Show. Follow us on Twitter at Basically Sports. Subscribe to the show on iTunes, Spreaker, Stitcher, and YouTube. And every episode of the show is available at basicallysports.tumblr.com. Now here are your hosts, Zach, Greg, and Mike. And this is Basically a Sports Show.
We've got some other stuff to cover first before we get into that.
I want to say this, too. There are 32 teams in the World Cup.
Yes.
All right. We can't do more than a couple minutes on each one because if we do, the show's going to be 7 hours long.
Greg, trust me, there are some of these that aren't worth even discussing.
We aren't going to spend a lot of time on Ghana. No offense to the good people of Ghana. But
Ghana is not in this World Cup, so we'll spend 0 minutes on Ghana.
I assumed they were.
No.
And you know the other country that's not, thankfully, the United States of America, which I'm just thankfully because that means that now I don't have to put up with a bunch of people that pay no attention to soccer suddenly becoming soccer experts. And I'm fine with that. If it means us not going to the World Cup for me to have this, I'm okay with it.
Meanwhile, in Russia, they changed their 100 ruble note to honor the World Cup. And here's Greg just not even giving a shit.
Yeah, I don't care. The most fun I have with this, and I do truly love our World Cup preview, but I like everything about it except the soccer stuff. That is completely uninteresting to me.
Look,
like Mike's little tidbits about the countries, that's great. I've decided that I'm going to contribute this year by finding famous people from each country that participates. And I got any
famous people from Uruguay?
I haven't gotten to Uruguay yet, but I will get there.
Okay.
With Morocco, I think just because this is a great name.
Humphrey Bogart.
One of the most famous people from Morocco is named French Montana, which I don't even.
French Montana is from
Montana.
French Montana is from Morocco.
Do you know of this person?
He's a rapper.
Okay, well then let's save that for the actual preview.
Okay,
he's not. Oh, I guess he was born in Morocco.
He is an American rapper born in Morocco. Anyway, we'll save that for the actual preview.
I was going to suggest my grade 6 Hebrew teacher. She was from Morocco.
And we can use her, too. But I suppose...
Cohen.
Mrs. Cohen. Nice Irish lady, huh? Anyway. Give me the rim shot there for the bad Catskills level joke there.
Well, I suppose that's fitting with Will Morris back on the boards that you break out that.
Yeah, have you turned into an anti-Semite?
No, the bad jokes.
Gotcha.
Seeing as he's all about the bad puns, but...
Anyway, I suppose we want to do a little postmortem on the two remarkably exciting, incredible, just edge of your seat, championship rounds in both the National Basketball Association and the National Hockey League.
Guys, let's start in the NBA because where could we go? The Warriors won.
Right.
Onto the NHL.
It's funny. I just want to say earlier in the season, both on the show and on the CCSLC boards, I criticized basketball people claiming that the NBA was so exciting by saying it's not exciting to see 29 teams compete to see who gets to lose to the Warriors in 5 games. They didn't even need 5. And
when you texted me that, I said it's 4 games, but the point remains because that's all it's going to take.
I remember at one point in Game 4, the Cavs got up by 1. I texted to both of you, "Series is wide open, guys."
I don't want to get too deep into it because it could be
there's nothing to get deep into.
But no, not the series itself, but there's a conversation that maybe we can have next week about this with the NBA.
Well,
I think that they because now there are rumors, and again, there are always rumors when it comes to free agency in any sport, really, but there are rumors that are fairly not, solid, but there is talk that LeBron may end up with the Golden State Warriors.
No.
There is talk, and there's talk that they would cut loose that they would cut loose Klay Thompson and Andre Iguodala to put LeBron in there. And again, I'm not saying that it's going to happen, but just the idea that it's possible. If it does, in fact, happen, then we've got to stop and go, look, they need to do something about this. Because that would be absolutely absurd to have Durant, Curry, and LeBron on that team.
That's not going to happen. It's just flat out not going to happen.
Okay.
This is where the commissioner needs to step in. Because remember when Chris Paul didn't become a Laker because, quote unquote, basketball reasons?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I thought that was something to do. The excuse they used was that there were problems with the trade. It wasn't that he just stepped in and said no.
That was the excuse they made, but the real reasoning was they didn't want the Lakers to be a super team.
Well, then why didn't they stop Kevin Durant why didn't they invoke the same rule?
I think the difference there is that it's free agency.
Gotcha. Okay.
And I guess LeBron would be a free agent, but he's going to be a Laker. Like the room, there's already a pretty solid rumor that he enrolled his kid in a school in North LA.
Right. Well, that was my thinking on it, that it's going to be either he doesn't leave Cleveland or he goes to Los Angeles. Those are your two most viable options, and I think Los Angeles is probably the leader right now.
I thought those two were the most – I thought those two were the only options because he did win a title in Cleveland. He has established a bit of a legacy there. And then on the Lakers end, it's the Lakers. It's like being a baseball player and playing for like the Yankees or the Red Sox or the Dodgers, right? Like at a certain point, it's kind of like even if you didn't grow up a fan of those teams, it'd still be kind of cool if you won a World Series with the Yankees, right? So
I was reading an article on ESPN the other day, and there was a lot of talk that he really does want to stay here. He really isn't, that leaving isn't the thing. He's okay with staying here under the right circumstances, but as we've seen twice now, it starts out well and ends badly with LeBron here. We're in the exact same spot we were in back in 2014 or whenever it was when he went to Miami. Exactly the same position.
But also, doesn't this speak volumes about what this finals was? That the most exciting things to talk about the finals are not the finals themselves.
Oh yeah, it was a joke. It was a joke.
The first game was interesting because he had the J.R. Smith. Clusterfuck, but after that it was
was where the Cavs could have gotten some kind of weird mojo going and maybe made this a series with that first game. But like we talked about after it happened, once that game got away from them, you knew there was no coming back.
Well, once it got, once the Warriors realized like, oh hey, we are lucky to get to overtime, no more kidding around, let's just end this, and then they did, and then they won 3 more games.
Yeah, because the Cavs, had they won that game, maybe you get in the Warriors' heads a little bit because they've already beaten them once, the Cavs have. And you think the Warriors go, it's all a bunch of what ifs, and you don't know. I mean, it might have ended up being a 5-game series instead of 4 if the Cavs won. That's every bit as likely as the Cavs getting in the series. I mean, it could have gone either way, but any chance the Cavaliers had went right out the window when J.R. Smith blew that first game. From that point forward, you knew there was no way they were going to win that series. Simple as that. And here we are, 3 years out of the last 4, talking about the Golden State Warriors winning the NBA championship. And if there's a person out there that's surprised by this, all I can tell you is either you have not followed basketball or you're the biggest idiot walking the planet. The only two things it could be.
Well, and I also want to address the people who are now saying that, oh, dynasties are good for the NBA. Look, I don't follow basketball enough to say whether or not that's true or false. Maybe it is. Maybe this is completely fine and the NBA won't implode, and it's entirely possible that this is just the way basketball is. And if that's how it is, fine, cool, whatever. I don't have a problem with it. But if you're going to trot that line out here about how dynasties are good for the NBA, don't then go around telling me that the NBA is so exciting because anyone can win it, because it can't be both.
No, it can't be. And I don't know that dynasties are good for the NBA, but
they are the way of things in the NBA. Yeah.
I'm going to go back to my old standby, though, which is the 80s Lakers and Celtics rivalry. The Lakers had a dynasty in the 80s, but it was a situation that was completely different from this one. The Celtics could and did beat them. And when they played each other, it wasn't like, well, how long is it going to take the Lakers to finish these guys off? Because the Celtics were every bit as good. So from that perspective, sure, maybe a dynasty isn't so bad. It's like you've got the Lakers, who can take them, and Boston was a team that could do it. Then Detroit did it, I think. Did Detroit beat the Lakers? I don't remember. I think they did once, yeah. But this is different. This is like Mike said, it's like you have 29 teams waiting for the honor to get knocked out of the finals by the Warriors in 4 or 5 games. That is not the same as what happened in the 80s. It's not, I don't know if it's maybe similar to what the Bulls were like when Jordan played, but whatever the case.
No, I was around 10 when Jordan won. I was 10, 11 when Jordan won his last 2. And, that was a long time ago, obviously, but it is around the time I start having like clear memories of things. And I don't remember it being like obviously the Bulls won, and it's not like the Jazz pushed them to any great lengths, but the Jazz, I remember putting up a fight. Like I remember in 98, for example, watching, I think it was a game 6. And the Jazz were battling them all along, like the entire game, the Jazz were putting up resistance. They didn't just like roll over and die like the Cavs seemed to in this one.
Well, I go back to like the 2000s Lakers. That Sacramento Kings team was pretty good. Mm-hmm. Probably should have won the 2002 Western Conference, but things happen. I'm not going to say it was fixed, except that it was. But whatever. But really, if you look at it, and we've talked about this before too, this is the way the NBA's been since the random, let's pick a team like the Bullets and let them win 70s. Ever since then, this has been it, basically.
The 1970s NBA seems so fun.
Yeah. Yeah, the Blazers won, and the Sonics won a title, and the Warriors won their first one there, and the Bullets, the Bucks, the Milwaukee Bucks, ladies and gentlemen, won the World Championship in 1971. And it's just, but anyway, we could go on and on about this. I don't want to because we've done it a million times. But this is why the NBA is not exciting, because we said back in probably this time last year, this is what's going to happen next season. The Warriors are going to win the title again. And guess what? That's exactly what they did. So take the idea that the NBA is exciting and go try to sell it to someone that's stupid enough to fall for it, because I don't buy it for a second.
Mm-hmm.
The NHL, on the other hand, you know what's been more exciting than the entirety of the NBA Finals? The Capitals' celebrations since they won.
Ovechkin going to the Nationals game was amazing.
The Capitals had a day on Saturday. They threw out the first pitch. They drank beers for 4 hours at the Nationals game, just chugging them on live TV, singing "We Are the Champions" for the 100th time. They went out to some bars in the Georgetown area, sang "We Are the Champions," drank some more beer. Ovechkin did a keg stand out of the Stanley Cup, drinking beer. They swam in a fountain in Georgetown.
Of beer.
Most of the Capitals. It could have been. Then at the parade, they're just chugging beers along the parade route. They're getting lit at 9:30 in the morning.
So what we're saying then basically is that the Washington Capitals have a drinking problem.
Ovechkin was sleeping with the Stanley Cup at one point, I believe.
Yep. Took it to bed with them. They partied all night in Vegas when they did win. The Capitals winning the Stanley Cup is the best thing that's happened in hockey in like 10 years, honestly.
I think it's great, and
it's fun.
And they dismantled everybody's lovable losers, the Vegas Golden Knights of Nevada via Clark County. It was just a dismantling, simple as that.
Yeah, I mean, I thought the Vegas would win that game 5, and they came back to tie it, but Fleury was the one that ultimately did him in that game with that little puck that leaked behind him, and he wasn't good in the final after being – people were talking going into the final with the way he had carried the Knights in the first 3 rounds. Like, if he has a good final, even if he loses, he could get a J.S. Shiger treatment and win the Smythe. He was awful in the final in terms of his numbers.
As Mike said last week, live by the Fleury, die by the Fleury.
Yeah, exactly. Like, look. Like, the Penguins went to Matt Murray for a reason. Like they went and they protected Matt Murray when the choice was Matt Murray or Marc-Andre Fleury for a reason. And that reason is that Marc Fleury has a reputation as a playoff choker. And he's had that for a number of years. And like everything else, that happened for a reason. And it's kind of like, it kind of reminded me a bit of the Predators and Pecorine last year. Not quite to the extent, because I think last year you saw, like, if you tracked Pecorine from the opening round to the Stanley Cup Finals last year, he got progressively worse in each round. Mm-hmm. Whereas that wasn't necessarily the case here. Like, Fleury was pretty lights out and consistently even through 3 rounds until the finals, but it's still one of those things, right? Where, yeah, if you get a hot goalie, you can win, you can ride it to the Stanley Cup Finals, but it can disappear almost as quickly as it appears.
Well, I don't want to take anything away from the Caps either by saying that Fleury just started not playing well. I think that a lot of it.
It was a fact. I mean, it was a factor.
But his poor play may have been a result of facing tougher competition. You know, it's not necessarily he just like if he plays well, then the Vegas Golden Knights win. I mean, the Capitals are a pretty good club. I mean, they've shown that for numerous years now. They finally broke through and did it this year. But this is so I don't want to take a thing away from the Capitals by saying that if Fleury stays hot, they don't win. I don't necessarily know if that's the case. But either way, you're right. I mean, he did not play as well in the final as he had up to that point. There's no question about it.
And you know, no. I don't even know if you can take too much away from the Knights. Like, yeah, they were shut down a little bit. Yeah, they cooled off. I just think Washington played that much better.
They're just the better team.
Ultimately.
That's what I saw. They're just the better team of the two. Simple as that.
And Ovechkin winning the Conn Smythe is deserved. Like, Kuznetsov had just as many points. He had more total. But this was Ovechkin's team. You know, this was Ovechkin's cup. 100%.
The only other person who I could have seen justifiably giving it to aside from Ovechkin was Holtby. And Holtby did everything they needed him to do in the finals, but he never had that like shut down performance. So
yeah, he had the save in game 2.
He did have that, yes.
but that's about it.
Hard to believe that
signature performances.
Hard to believe that team was at one point in the playoffs down 2-0 to the Columbus Blue Jackets.
Yeah, and those 2 games, the Holtby didn't even start the playoffs technically.
Yeah.
I mean, who the hell knows what happens if Columbus manages to score in double overtime in Game 3? Like,
again, you know, it might have just meant that we see another 0-3 comeback or reverse sweep, but it could have changed everything.
It'll be one of the great what ifs in sports history, you know, that you can mark down. Just Ovechkin winning. His face when he finally was about to take the cup, he just kind of put his hands on his head, and you can see in his face, he's just, oh my God, I'm going to do it. It's right here. And then he grabs it and just yells like a primal scream. It was awesome.
It was the best cup grab since Messier's insane laughter in '94.
Yeah, no, seriously. That's what I thought too. That's a Messier-esque moment where it's just kind of like, oh my God, we won. Oh my God, I did it. And
different side, I think that
pure joy.
I'm going to give Ovi the nod though, because Mess already had 5 rings at that point. So,
he
did it for the Rangers, which was of course a big deal for that team, but this Ovechkin, this is his first one, so I'm going to give him he's the cup raising champion at this point.
I will say the thing that was to me stood out the most. I mean, obviously the crazy scream after he grabbed it is memorable, but when he handed it to Nick Backstrom,
yeah.
And it's just like, because he's the guy who's been there through all of this shit. Like every single time we ragged on the Capitals, it was Nick Backstrom. He was there just as, long as Ovi has been. And it was really sorry.
I was just going to say, it was really great to see him finally punch that ticket and get it done.
Well, it was nice. Like when he just gave to Nick Backstrom, it was just this thing of like, can you fucking believe we finally did this?
Yeah. Well, like when he's skating around, when Obi was skating around, it looked like he actually had no idea what to do. He was he had no idea what to do with himself. He's just like, I have it. I'm going to skate it. I'm going to skate this way. I'm going to look at this way. I'm going to shake it and yell and just like it was pure joy.
What do I do?
Absolute joy.
I never thought this would happen. What?
A lot of people didn't think it would happen.
One of my favorite parts about Ovi's lap with the cup, though, Did you see the action on the glass in that game?
Yes, the woman flashing him.
Yes. So Ovechkin's
no, as I told you guys, I had turned the channel to watch soccer at that point.
Good job, Greg.
Yeah.
Ovechkin's making a lap, and this lady presses her exposed breasts up against the glass, and so he's skating with it. His back's to it, so he's just like, "Yeah, oh my God, the Stanley Cup!" And then you just see one by one his teammates all kind of like stop and like point at the glass, like, "Hey!" And like,
now I got to see a picture of this.
I'll get it. It's a great picture of Ovi just celebrating, and the rest of his teammates, despite just winning the Stanley freaking Cup, are just like, hey.
Oh, here we go. I'm watching the video. Let's see.
Here, I'll send you.
Oh, there they go.
I have some screen grabs of it. Yeah. The
girl in the white dress?
Yeah.
She could have done better than that. But yeah.
Yeah.
No, it was awesome to see him win it. I mean, it's like with these guys and like the Blues and teams like that. I want to see them finally, get the monkey off their back, basically. And it was great to see that they finally did.
Again, speaking of that, thank God for the Blues, because the Capitals, as you said, Greg, like, we've lost about 30% of our joke repertoire.
Well, we did, but then I realized we still have the Blues, so there's that.
And we still have the Sharks.
And we still have the Sharks. Yeah, so we're okay. The inventory, we lost a little bit, but really we didn't lose anything necessarily. We just have to move things now. We have to. And
look, I'm sure the Blues will provide for us for many years to come.
I hope not, but you're probably right. But you know what? Zach said, though, this year, he said, it has to end eventually. I don't think the Blues are good enough to end it at any time soon, but I would like to see it happen. I don't know the Sharks, where they're at this point.
The Sharks are in a weird spot, I think, but, I don't know.
Who was
but the same thing that happened to we had said for years, we expected so much out of the Capitals year after year after year, and then we started just discounting they're going to lose. But I think this was really the first year where it was not a single expectation on them. They're not even going to get close. They're going to lose to the Penguins. It's not going to matter, and they're going to lose. Nobody was even giving them they might. And of course, this is when they finally break through.
Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm. And I think the other thing that I heard today that people kind of forget. Your favorite player, Mike, Steve Yzerman.
Oh, yes.
This is Ovechkin's 14th year in the league.
Yeah.
You know when Yzerman won his first cup?
It would have been around the same time, right?
In his 14th season. After years of playoff disappointments and getting the label as a playoff choker.
Well, not only that,
he became known as the greatest leader in hockey.
Yzerman started out with those bad Red Wings teams that I tell you guys about that you don't believe actually existed.
Oh, well, we're getting our own. So.
Yeah, the Red Wings are bad again. It's fine.
Yeah, but he was that's where he was because he was one of the guys that they used as an example of the Red Wings are headed in the right direction. But they were so bad. And so I can imagine.
Well, you look at a career like Yzerman's or say John Elway. Elway's a little bit closer to the end, but he still made it to another. So there's no saying that now that he's gotten through, he might just do it again.
Who, Ovechkin?
Yeah.
Oh, this team's good. Well, that's the thing. They've been good. This isn't a come out of the nowhere, win the cup type of thing. They have been on the doorstep for as long as we've been doing this show. So I have no reason to think they couldn't come back and maybe repeat like the Penguins did. But what is his 14th season? So he doesn't have 10 more years to win another one. I mean, maybe he does, but I think he's still within the window to grab another one. Sure. Why not?
Sure.
This is a good club, man. They're not going anywhere. And we talked about this too, when they kept falling short. You can't blow it up because it's too good. And we see why you don't blow it up now, because finally, eventually, things will fall into place, hopefully, and you finally get the win. And that's what happened with these guys. So imagine if they had, though, blown it up after, say, 3 years ago. They said, you know what, it's just not going to happen with Ovechkin and this crew. Screw it. We're blowing it up. We're trading Ovechkin. And then what? Where are you? None of this happens.
I would add to that. kind of dovetailing into our earlier NBA conversation. Imagine if after last season, Ovechkin said, screw it, signed with the Penguins, and then the Penguins won it this year. Would it mean nearly as much?
No. This is a LeBron Cavs type thing here.
Oh yeah.
Maybe I mean, it's not his hometown or anything, but this is similar to that in that he finally, after all these years and so many disappointments, they finally break through and they win the whole damn thing. That's what's cool about it. There's some teams you root for to do this. The Caps are one for me. The Blues are another. I'm not so sure about the Sharks. I really kind of don't care. Kind of like with the Cubs. I mean, it was a great story and all, but fuck them. And and not because they beat the Indians. I felt that way before that. It was like, I don't care if you guys ever win a World Series. Same with the Red Sox, but the Caps, I'm glad to see they did it. It was awesome. And that's going to do it for this episode of Basically a Sports Show. To save you guys the trouble of listening to a 3-hour episode, we're going to stop right here and make the World Cup preview a separate episode on its own. Thanks again for tuning in, and don't forget you can follow us on Twitter at Basically Sports. Subscribe via iTunes, Stitcher, Spreaker, and YouTube, and you can follow us on Facebook.